Now you're most likely thinking to yourself, what exactly are you walking through? What happened here? Why did it happen? And how did it happen? Now, in order to answer those questions, you must ask yourself as well, whatever happened here, what would it have been called? A war, a battle, a massacre, a desecration? Well, to answer that question, this would have been simply classified as a simple race riot. And in today's video, we will be exploring this thing that should never have a place in American history, as well as many other things. By many other things, I mean 3 things. This, another thing, and something that's positive. In the history of African Americans within the 1920s of America. And now you're most likely thinking to yourself, what exactly am I watching here? Well, to answer that question, we would have to look at the Tulsa race riots. You see, this is supposed to be a reenactment of the Tulsa race riots, and you're most likely thinking to yourself, what are the Tulsa race riots? Well, you see, between the days of May 31st and June 1st in 1921, there was what could be considered a war, a total battle against African Americans, being waged by white people. And what led to this event, you may ask? Well, you see, what happened was, a black man was accused of raping an elevator operator at a communications tower who just so happened to be white. You see, when a group of black men heard that this man was going to become lynched, they rallied in front of the police station where he was being held, therefore leading to a confrontation between a mob of African Americans and a mob of white people. And well, all I can say is, it led to, as I said earlier, a complete battle, a war, a fight for survival, anarchy. And well, these are the results of what had happened on this fateful day. Many were killed, and many more were displaced from their homes. As you can see, this is what a total war zone would have looked like if it were domestic. What you are looking at now is a representation of the home that hid accused rapist Jesse Hunter. You see, what happened with Jesse Hunter was he was accused by a white woman named Fannie Taylor, who, well, managed to get the attention of a white mob. And the white mob, in short, came to the town of Rosewood, which is where this residence lied, and proceeded to massacre the whole place, pillage it, destroy it, and turn it into a total ruin. Now you see, they took the following steps in their crusade of death. First, they decided to murder the family dog, because why not murder the family dog? Because, you know, it could be good target practice, am I correct? Next, they were confronted by the mother, who in turn was also murdered. And then next, they proceeded to wreak havoc amongst the village, slaughtering animals, killing the townspeople, and destroying buildings without a second thought, as if it were a Black Tuesday, an awesome Friday, or a wonderful Wednesday. I don't know why I chose those days, but I chose them, and they are so. Now, of course, they did not use the power of godlike magic. I just felt like I had to clarify that. And as you'll see in a bit, you'll see the true damages caused by the white mob's reign of destruction. Now, I know I did just go over 2 extremely negative events within African American history, but there is one grand positive that outdoes the negatives. And that was the Harlem Renaissance. You see, what truly gave the Harlem Renaissance way to become the huge wave it had become of African advancements in the culture was the Great Migration. You see, the Great Migration was when a ton of African Americans moved from the south to the north, Why? Because, well, two things. One, Jim Crow laws were limiting their rights there. And if I were an African American at that time, I would say, screw that, I'm getting out of there. And I know my accent just went from English to Scottish, but you know what? I don't care. Second, World War I. You see, since the Europeans were too busy killing each other in, well, Europe, no Europeans can emigrate from Europe to America. So, there are factory jobs in the north that needed taking. So who took those jobs? Of course, the African Americans from the south who were willing to get the hell out of there just so they can escape racism for the most part and find opportunity in the north. And one of the communities that saw such a large influx of African Americans was Harlem, New York. You see, thanks to this grand and large influx of African American people going to Harlem, Harlem became the epicenter of a huge artistic, literary, and intellectual movement into African American culture that we like to call the Harlem Renaissance. You see, thanks to this Renaissance, it gave African American culture a brand new identity. They went from yo, what's up, man? That phone to the crib, go pop, yeah, on that GDB stuff, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. To the fancy and classy black people you'd see in a Tyler Perry movie. And of course, artists such as Louis Armstrong, which the Renaissance gave rise to, managed to influence future generations of African American writers, musicians, and artists. Of course, there are more influential people like Louis Armstrong, but again, Louis Armstrong is just one of many. One thing that I believe we can all take away from this video is that the strength of the Black Panther will be stripped away. No, I'm just kidding. That was a bad joke. I should probably take it out, but I'm not going to, because I am the Black Panther. But anyway, you see, one thing that you could take away from this video is that African Americans pretty much dealt with a lot of things in their history within our country. But of course, those things can be prevented simply by learning about them. Because I know that we are all good-hearted people who would never wish to have these histories, not these histories, I can speak English, don't worry, that these events in history can never repeat again, because that is the point of learning history, right? Never repeating the negatives and hoping the positives may repeat. Also, I hope you guys can learn from this presentation. What do you mean by that, you may be asking? Well, I hope that you learn it shouldn't be a boring Google slide presentation that will put us all to sleep. Enjoy your day.